Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. Andy Farrel has officially announced his first ever British and Irish Lions side, and Maro will captain for the very first time. And a semi-predictable side, quite close to the one that we spoke about yesterday, given the fact that the Leinster players, Bath players, for example, the Tigers players and the likes, joined quite late, and even some of the French players not available for the match on Friday against Argentina. And Felipe Contepomi has also named his side. So we're going to be looking at both sides and sort of seeing what some of the early signs of the British and Irish Lions side this weekend might indicate for the tour itself. And for me, particularly paying attention to who is starting in the number 13 jersey. Before we get into it, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, there it is. That is the British and Irish Lions side for this weekend. And let's go through it, 1 through to 15. So, Ellis Gaines starts ahead of Pierre Schoeman. That was the one change I had yesterday. But Ellis Gaines, lots of people talking about the fact he might actually be a test starter. I'd be very surprised if he were to start ahead of Andrew Porter. But he gets an opportunity to start this weekend next to Luke Cowan-Dickie and Finlay Bealham. Put yourself in Finlay Bealham's shoes. A week and a half ago, you weren't even going to tour with this side, and now you'll run out on Friday in the red of the British and Irish Lions. What a few days it's been for him, and a huge opportunity on Friday to try and stake a claim for high honours, to become a test lion later on in the tour. It's a pretty predictable lock pairing in Maro Itoje and Ty Byrne. I think that will be the lock pairing come the tests in July. Tom Curry, Jack Morgan, Ben Earl, the back three. Very good back three there, and so chuffed to see Jack Morgan being recognised. One of the few Welsh players, I think, who really stood up and can actually consider himself in the sort of start to world class category. On his day, he's really good. And I don't think this is just, I don't think he's going to be just a tourist that's going to play in the midweek games. I think he's genuinely going to be pushing for a potential test cap or two. If you look at the backline, Alex Mitchell partnering Finn Smith and Marcus Smith at full back. We spoke about this yesterday. No Hugo Keenan, no Blair Kinghorn. They weren't any options to go at fullback, to be honest. They had Elliot Daly, who's on the bench, but it was quite likely we're potentially going to see both Smiths. No, we're never going to see Finn Russell this week, given the fact that he was still playing in Bath on Saturday. But very interestingly, Bundy Aki starts with Sione Tuipulotu at outside centre. Could this be a bit of a look at what we might actually see come the Test series against Australia, because I personally would love to see the Tuipulotu. You can't really leave out Bundy Aki, especially the way he's been playing the last year or two. But Tuipulotu at outside centre offers you quite something different. Very physical, obviously, as the natural inside centre, but also great set of hands. So it'll be an interesting combination to see how they kind of go on Friday as they try and sort of make a case to both start come the test series. Then your two wings, Duhan van der Merwe and Tommy Freeman, I think were pretty predictable, in all honesty. It's exactly who I went with yesterday. Off the bench, Ronan Kelleher gets the nod ahead of Dan Sheehan. Pierre Schoeman, Tyke Furlong. Good to see Tyke Furlong in, coming back from injury. He'll be trying to build a bit of fitness before they get on a plane and set forth to Australia. So an opportunity to sort of prove his case. Scott Cummings, one of the few Scottish players in and around that side. Henry Pollack gets an opportunity, number 20. We thought he might, and get an opportunity to see if he is the real deal. I've got a sneaky suspicion we might see him in the Test series, to be honest. I think his meteoric rise means that if he has a good couple of games going into the tour, I do think he's got a chance of being in that Test side. And then you've got Thomas Williams, Elliot Daly, Mac Hansen. Plenty of experience there. It's a good side. It's a very, very good side. In fact, I think the Argentinians could be in for a long evening. And in terms of the Los Pumas side, we'll go into in a second. But speaking about the side, Andy Farrell said as follows. He said, congratulations to Maro Itoje ahead of leading out the Lions for the first time. It is a truly special moment and one that very few players ever get to experience. Maro has led the group well during our time in Portugal and then Dublin this week. This is also our first opportunity to show what the 2025 Lions are about and what we stand for as a team. We know that Argentina will challenge up front and out wide, so Friday night will be a tough contest, but also a great occasion for the fans. There are 14 players who are making their debuts. Two tourists in Bundy Aki, Ty Byrne, two-time tourists rather in Bundy Aki, Ty Byrne, Tom Curry, Marcus Smith, Duhan van der Merwe, who all played in South Africa, and there are three-time tourists in Elliot Daly, Tyke Furlong, as well as Maro Itoje. The kickoff, by the way, is at 8 o'clock British Standard Time, which is 9 o'clock South African Standard Time. We will be covering it, so don't you stress. And in terms of the Argentinian side, this is what Felipe Contepomi has gone with, and it's a good Argentinian side. So Michael Vivias, Julian Montoya, and Joel Slavi up front. Missing the likes of Eduardo Bellis, who currently got injured. And Thomas Gajo also is a very big name, not there, but hopefully we'll see them involved later on in the Rugby Championship. Franco Molina and Pedro Rubiolo in the second row. Pedro Rubiolo in particular is a very nice player. Got a lot of time for him. And then my favorite loose trio in the world, maybe even more than Sacco to a certain degree. I love watching these three players play. And that is Pablo Montero, Jean-Martin Gonzalez, and Jacques Oviedo, who's had an absolute storm of a season last year. And I mean, I think there's few players that have taken to international rugby much better than the likes of a Jean-Martin Gonzalez, for example. So that back three really, really excites me. And I think they'll be looking to make it a very difficult game for the Lions at the breakdown. You think on Gonzalo Sia in the number 9 jersey. Thomas Albanese, what a season he had last year. And hopefully really sort of kicks it up again, because he was really lots of fun to watch. You then got Ignacio Mendy and Rodrigo Isgro as your two wings, Justo Bacaro and Lucio Cinti in the centers, and Santiago Carreras at fullback, who's the vice captain alongside Pablo Matera. I don't really like the two vice captains, but what can you do? Then off the bench, a nice mixture of experience with some youth. You've got Battista Berlusconi, Boris Wenger, and Francisco Correa Manchetti in the front row, Santiago Gordona, Jacques Moore in the second row, Simon Benitez Cruz, Matthias Moroni, and Santiago Cordero. So lots of experience, especially in the back line, to be able to come off in the second half of that game. Kickoff was at 4 o'clock rather, if you're in Argentina. What are your score predictions, and what are your thoughts mainly on this kind of side? Because this is probably the side we're going to be more tracking. This Argentinian side will develop in their time. I think it's playing against England actually in July before the Rugby Championship, and I think they're going to be a very difficult side to go and tour later on in the year when the Boks do go. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the likes of Thomas Albanese, that loose trio there. Julio Montoya never really drops a bad game. To be honest, Santiago Carreras, what a player he is. I know Jean-Cruz Malia will be a big absentee for them. And then in terms of the Lions, well, I think there's big opportunities for the likes of Tupolotto to get himself into that test side. I think a big opportunity for Jack Morgan as well. I think those two players are probably on the fringes of maybe not potentially being in that test side. Players who I think are pretty much nailed down starters in that test side. Probably, if you think of Bundyaki, you'd obviously Maro Tojo, Ty Byrne, you'd probably think those. Tom Curry-Bendel, maybe. You know, if there was a Callan Doris, I think that he'd be the sort of your starting 8, but maybe that number 8 now is up for grabs. You know, Jack Conan will be looking to try and get his name in the mix over there. So plenty of opportunities for some of these players to put their hands up, and I really want to see which players do. And hopefully Andy Farrell, whilst he'll have sort of a rough idea of what he wants to see in this test side, he needs to have spots open for players who can sort of break that door down. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.